Good evening, students. I was discussing mainly flower, a fascinating organ of angiosperms yesterday. We have started the second chapter, sexual reproduction in flowering plant. So today we have to continue with pre-fertilization structure and events. So in this mainly first we have to learn about we have to start with the male reproductive oral. As we know, male reproductive oral is mainly androecium, which is made up of the male reproductive organ, the male sex organ, mainly stamen. So first we will discuss about the stamen. Stamens are the male sex organs. They are the components of the androecium. Stamen is also referred as microsporophyll. Each stamen consists of mainly two parts. One is filament and another one anther. Filament and anther are the two parts of the stamen. So this is the stamen structure. Long, slender stalk. Long, slender stalk. It is a sterile part. Is referred as filament. This is the proximal end. This is proximal end of the stamen, which can be attached to either thalamus. The proximal end of the filament is attached to the thalamus, or it can be attached to the petal, whatever it is. So long, slender stalk, which is sterile part, that is called as filament. The tip of that filament, it has knob-like terminal fertile part. A knob-like terminal fertile part or structure, that we call it as anther. Each anther has two lobes. Each anther has two lobes. These are the two lobes, 1 and 2. These anther lobes are connected by a tissue that is called connective. It is called as connective. In this anther, when two lobes are there, when two anther lobes are there, then it is diathecous anther. It is diathecous anther or biathecous anther, whatever you call. when anther has two lobes, then it is called diathecous anther. Many of the flowers are having diathecous anther. In some case, stamen containing anther has only one anther lobe. So, anther has only one lobe. When only one lobe is there, it is called as monothecous. It is referred as monothecous. So, this is monothecous anther. In this, single anther lobe will be there. This is as usual what we call filament, and this is anther. Monothecous anther is present in family Malvaceae. The members of the family Malvaceae, hibiscus is an example. China road, Daswada. So there monothecous anther will be there. In this anther, there will be a group on one side. There will be a group on one side, and on the other side that there is connected. Now, each anther lobe, in each anther lobe, there will be presence of microsporangia. Microsporangia are cylindrical structures which are present throughout the length of the anther. Inside that anther lobe, there will be cylindrical structures called as microsporangia. In each anther lobe, each anther lobe has two microsporangia. Each anther lobe has two microsporangia. So here, if this is one anther lobe, here one microsporangia, here one microsporangia. Like that, you have diathecous anther. Two anther lobes will be there. So this is one microsporangia, this is one. So two microsporangia in each anther lobe. So total microsporangia or microsporangium, singular microsporangia 4, plural. Okay, so 4 microsporangia will be present. When you take the transverse section, then we can get the clear-cut idea of the microsporangia present within the anther lobe. When anther is monothecous, having only one anther lobe, in that case, here only 2 microsporangia will be there. 2 microsporangia. So it is bisporangiate. This is tetrasporangiate. This is a tetrasporangiate structure, and if monothecous anther is there, this is monothecous anther as seen in hibiscus flower. So it is bisporangiate structure. So when you take the transverse section, I told these microsporangia are cylindrical structure. They are extending throughout the length of the anther. When we take the transverse section, This is the three-dimensional cut structure of the anther. So here what you are saying, this is one anther lobe. So this part is one anther lobe and this is another anther lobe. So here you have these microsporangia. So total 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So in each anther lobe 2 microsporangia. So these microsporangia are present at the corners. See, at the 4 corners of the anther lobes, these 4 microsporangia are present. So within the microsporangia, you can see the formation of large number of these what you call pollen grains. On maturity of the anther, you can see the formation of large number of the pollen grains. So this is the three-dimensional cut section of the anther. See, number of the stamen variable. Number of the stamens variable in flower. Usually we may have 5, sometimes 10 or more than that. Okay. Then the position of the filament which is attached to the anther, that also can be variable. We have basifixed, dorsifixed, adnate, then versatile. Different kind of anthers are there. Depending upon the attachment of the filament to the anther, different types are there. And length of the stamen is also variable. Okay. So the number of the stamens and length of stamen variable. Okay. You have learnt the condition, didynamous condition and tetradynamous condition in first year morphology chapter based on the length of the stem. So each anther has 2 lobes. That's why it is called dithecous. And in one anther lobe, there are further develop and form pollen sac. So microsporangia can further develop into pollen sac. So these are the pollen sac. What you are saying, these are referred as pollen sac. They are also called as pollen chambers. Pollen sac or pollen chambers, they are basically formed from the microsporangia itself. So in some of the book they have given microsporangia is also known as pollen sac. So total 4 pollen sacs or pollen chambers will be there. They are present at 4 corners of the anther lobe. So making it tetrasporangiate structure. So inside the microsporangia, there will be presence of microspore mother cells which carry out meiotic division to produce these haploid pollen grain. So this is the cut 3-dimensional structural view of what we call anther. So you try to remember this. Now moving on to very important concept, that is TS of young anther or structure of microsporangium. Structure of microsporangium or transverse section of young anther. 5 mark, very, very important as per exam point of view. Very important. So structure of microsporangium or transverse section of young anther. Mature anther structure slightly different, which has a dehiscent to release the pollen grain. We are learning mainly the structure of the young anther. This is the diagrammatic outline of transverse section of young anther. These are all microsporangium. So when a single microsporangium is magnified, it shows the presence of 4 wall layers. The transverse section of the young anther shows presence of 4 wall layer, and in the center of each microsporangium, here this is microsporangium, okay, in the center here you have what we call sporogenous tissue. Here you have sporogenous tissue. This sporogenous tissue is present in the center of each microsporangium, which is in turn covered with 4 wall layer, which you can see here. The first wall layer, that is epidermis, this one is epidermis, and the second wall layer present beneath the epidermis, that is endothecium, and the third layer, that is middle layer, and the innermost wall layer, that is tapetum. This is as it is what we call sporogenous tissue. So when this part is magnified, it shows the arrangement of different layer of cells in this young anther microsporangium. So a enlarged view of a single microsporangium show the structural arrangement of these different layer of cells. So the first layer, that is epidermis. So this what you are saying here, this is epidermis. Outermost protective layer, single layer, it is complete. This one what you are saying, complete covering, protective covering of this anther present throughout the anther structure. Okay, what you can see here. So that is the what we call epidermis, made up of usually parenchyma cells which are closely packed without any intercellular spaces. So this is epidermis. The layer present below the epidermis is endothelium. The cells are larger. Endothelial cells are larger. And these endothelial cells, they are larger. They are hygroscopic. They are having the property of absorbing the water molecule, moisture, water content. So that's why they are hygroscopic. See, this is the wall. You can see here. This is the wall, radial wall, and this is tangential wall. This is tangential wall, and this wall is known as radial wall. This is tangential wall. There is fibrous thickening in the endothelial cell wall. Fibrous thickening in endothelial cell wall. So what kind of fibrous thickening is there? Alpha cellulosic fibrous bands are present on the tangential wall as well as the inner radial wall also. Alpha cellulosic fibrous band are present on the this is radial wall, and this is tangential wall. This is the radial wall, this is tangential wall. So alpha cellulosic fibrous band or fibrous thickening present along the tangential and radial wall. Okay, when anther mature, the hygroscopic nature of the endothelial cell will be lost. Okay, and these endothelial cells helps in dehiscence of the anther, breaking down of the anther on maturity to release, to burst the microspores or pollen grains, whatever you call. So this is about the endothelial layer, endothelium. Second layer. Then below the endothelium, there is a layer called a middle layer. So this you are saying, these two layers, what you are saying, these two layers here, middle layer. Middle layer is usually 1 to 3 layer structure. Middle layer is 1 to 3 layered structure. Is ephemeral. It is ephemeral. Ephemeral means short-lived. These middle layer cells can disintegrate or degenerate soon and mainly help in the nourishment of the sporogenous tissue. Middle layer, 1 to 3 layer cells. Okay, these cells can soon degenerate or disintegrate and help in the nourishment of the sporogenous tissue. This alpha cellulosic fibrous bands which you can see in endothelium, such kind of fibrous thickening is absent in the hydrophyte anther. Remember, in hydrophyte anther, alpha cellulosic fibrous band usually absent in the endothelial wall. So this is about the middle layer. Middle layer is 1 to 3 layer and it is short-lived. Soon it disintegrate or degenerate and it is going to provide nourishment to this porogenous tissue. So this is third layer. Now the innermost layer, see from outermost to innermost, epidermis, endothecium, middle layer, and innermost is tapetum. So this question can be asked in NEET. From outermost to innermost or from innermost to outermost. So from innermost to outermost, first you have to take tapetum, middle layer, endothecium, then epidermis. So the innermost layer, this is what you call, what you are saying, this layer is tapetum layer, that is innermost layer. It is the innermost layer which is in contact with sporogenous tissue or microspore mother cells. You can see these all are microspore mother cell, and this layer, what you are saying, this layer is tapetum layer, innermost layer. So this tapetum is the innermost layer of the anther or microsporangium. It is a nutritive tissue. It is a nutritive tissue. It provides the nourishment to the pollen grains. It is a nutritive tissue. The main function of the tapetum is to provide the nourishment or food material to the developing pollen grains. Pollen grains or microspores are formed from the microspore mother cells. Now, the tapetum cells, these cells are having dense cytoplasm with more than one nucleus. More than one nucleus. So usually tapetal layer is multinucleate. Tapetum layer is multinucleate or it is polyploid in nature. The tapetal cells possess dense cytoplasm with more than one nucleus. Usually they are multinucleated structure, they are polyploid in nature. Now, usually we see the diploid cells here. Each layer we can see diploid structure. But the tapetum layer is mainly, it is multinucleated and it is polyploid in nature. So multinucleated and polyploid nature of the tapetum is due to endomitosis and endopolyploidy. The multinucleated nature and the polyploid nature of the tapetal cell is due to endomitosis or endopolyploidy. The tapetal cells are having higher DNA content. They have higher DNA content. So what is this endomitosis and endopolyploidy? Remember these two terms. The polyploid nature or multinucleated nature of the tapetum cells is due to endomitosis and endopolyploidy. Endomitosis, replication of chromosome without the division of the nucleus in a cell. The division of the chromosome without the division of the nucleus. Replication of the chromosome which leads to the production of identical copies of the chromosome not followed by the division of the nucleus. See, chromosomes are nuclear component, you know that. So here endomitosis means replication of chromosome occur in a cell within the nucleus. It is not followed by nuclear division. That is endomitosis. So that can lead to the multinucleated structure formation in case of the tapetum. So this is the tapetum layer. Now endopolyploidy, you know polyploidy. See, normal what you call somatic cells, vegetative cell diploid contain two sets of chromosome. Each somatic cell contains two sets of chromosome. We say homologous chromosome, paternal set, maternal set, like that we say. And in gametes, in male gamete that is sperm, and in female gamete that is egg or ovum, haploid set we say. So when a cell has more than two sets of chromosome, then we usually prefix it as polyploid. We usually call it as polyploid in nature. So here, due to endopolyploidy, presence of more sets of chromosomes in the tapetal set. Endopolyploidy refers to the polyploidy caused in a cell due to replication of chromosome. The polyploidy caused in a cell due to replication of chromosome in a cell not followed by the nuclear division. Not followed by the nuclear division. So these two important processes responsible for the multinucleated or polyploid nature of the tapetal cell, that remember. So the polyploidy caused due to the replication of chromosome in a cell not followed by nuclear division, that is called as endopolyploidy. So tapetum cells, okay, they are having dense cytoplasm and contain more number of nuclei, and they have high content of the DNA in them. They are nutritive, provide nourishment to the pollen grain. Now, little bit extra information. Tapetum is of mainly two types. One is glandular or secretory tapetum, and another one amoeboid or invasive or plasmodial tapetum. Two types of tapetum are there. These are the two types of tapetum. So first one, if you take glandular or secretory tapetum. So as the name itself suggests, secretory tapetum. So it is secretory in function. This glandular or secretory tapetum, it provides, what it provides? sporopollenin, pollen kit, compatible protein. It is nutritive. It is nutritive, provide food material. It secretes enzymes. This secretory tapetum or glandular tapetum, it provides Ubish granules. Ubish is the name of the scientist who found the role of tapetum. So, this glandular or secretory tapetum provides or contains Ubish granules. What is the role of the Ubish granules? Ubish granules contain sporopollenin. It contains sporopollenin, which helps in the formation of the outer protective covering of the pollen grain, that is exine layer. In the ornamentation of the exine layer, the outer wall layer, that is exine is mainly made up of the chemical, that is sporopollenin. So Ubish granules made up of sporopollenin, which helps in the formation of outer exine layer of pollen grain. Outer exine layer of the pollen grain. This exine layer has a different kind of artistic pattern or design. Ornamentation work will be there on the surface of the exine layer. And this is the pollen kit. Pollen kit is present in insect pollinated pollen grains. The flowers which are pollinated by insect, entomophilous flowers, these pollen grains, if this is the exine layer having spines, so here on the surface of that yellowish sticky mass will be there. Yellowish sticky mass present on the exine layer, that is called as pollen kit. Pollen kit is secreted by glandular tapetum or secretory tapetum. This pollen kit is yellowish sticky mass present on the outer surface of the exine layer in entomophilous pollen grain, insect pollinated pollen grain. So this pollen kit help in the attachment of the pollen grains onto the surface of the insects. So due to the presence of pollen kit in these pollen grains which are pollinated by insects, these pollen grains can easily adhere, stick on to the body surface of the insect. When the same insect go and visit another flower, that leads to pollination, that is cross pollination. That is the role of this pollen kit. Then secretory tapetum is going to provide compatible proteins. These compatible proteins play a very important role. See, when the pollen grain reaches the stigma of a flower after pollination, this is the stigmatic surface and pollen grain has reached the stigma. This pollen grain is going to react with the stigmatic chemicals, the chemicals which are provided by the stigmatic fluid, so that stigma can recognize the pollen grain, whether it is compatible, means related species, or it is totally different, incompatible. So these compatible proteins helps in the identification of the related species, that is chemical dialogue will be established between the pollen grain and the stigma. So if it is compatible, means related species pollen grain, then only stigma will provide certain chemical fluid that helps in the germination of the pollen grain to form pollen tube. So it produces the pollen tube. That is due to the chemical dialogue, chemical reaction between the compatible proteins present on the exine layer of the pollen grain with the stigmatic surface. So that is the role of this compatible protein, and basically it is a nutritive in function. It provides the food material to the developing pollen grain formed from these microspore mother cells, and also produce enzymes that can help in what you call a dissolution of the stigmatic surface, so that the pollen tube can penetrate through the stigma, then style later on can reach what you call the ovule, which contain the egg in it. So that is how the secretory tapetum play a very important role. So remember this. Then you have amoeboid or invasive or plasmodial tapetum. These cells soon degenerate. These cells soon degenerate. Their content, the content of these amoeboid tapetal cells move to the center. It moved to the center. What is there in the center? Sporodinous tissue is there. Sporodinous tissue. Sporodinous tissue will develop into microspore mother cells. Microspore mother cells only will form pollen grain. So these amoeboid tapetal cells can soon degenerate or disintegrate, and their entire cell content move to the center and nourish MMC, microspore mother cells. Nourish microspore mother cells, or what you can refer pollen grains or microspores. Pollen grains or microspores. So these are the two types of tapetum that you remember as an extra information. Okay. The role of tapetum you have to remember, very important. See, when this is asked for 5 marks, you have to draw both these figures. One, that is a diagrammatic outline of a TS of young anther. This diagrammatic outline is not showing the arrangement of different layer of cells. So when it is magnified, one single microsporangium, see this is one anther lobe, this is another anther lobe, total 4 pollen sacs or microsporangia are there at 4 corners of the anther. Okay, so it is a tetrasporangiate structure. We have magnified or enlarged sectional view of a microsporangium show this structure. So both these structures you have to draw in theory exam, and you have to explain all these 4 wall layers and one more central part. See here now. So in the center now, in young anther there will be presence of this sporogenous tissue. In the young anther there will be presence of sporogenous tissue. The group of compactly arranged homogeneous cells. The group of compactly arranged, closely packed, these are meristematic cells, so they are capable of undergoing cell division. So group of compactly arranged homogeneous cells, that we call it a sporogenous tissue. So the center, what you are saying, this is sporogenous tissue. This sporogenous tissue present in the center of a microsporangium. On its outer side it has 4 wall layers, from inner to outer tapetum, middle layer endothecium, epidermis, from outer to inner epidermis, endothecium, and then middle layer and tapetum. So you have to remember the structure of what you call this young anther. So this sporogenous tissue which is there in the center of the microsporangium, they are capable of, these cells are capable of undergoing cell division. So these cell, each cell of a sporogenous tissue is capable of giving rise to producing what you call pollen tetrad or microspore tetrad. You will come to know what is the meaning of that. Okay, it is capable of producing microspores or pollen grain. Okay, so this sporogenous tissue which is there, that will be transformed into microspore mother cells, or microspore mother cells also called as pollen mother cells. Pollen mother cells, PMCs. Microspore mother cell, MMCs. So these pollen mother cells, they are diploid. The different layer cells, basically they are diploid except the tapetal layer. Tapetal layer, due to endomitosis and endopolyploidy, they are polyploid in nature. So try to remember this, right? So this is the very important part, that is the transverse section of young anther. Remember, I told when you take the anther, simple structure like this, okay. So in this microsporangia, which are cylindrical structure, long cylindrical structure, which are present throughout the length of the anther. When you take this section, this microsporangium is circular in outline. See, this appears circular in outline. Now listen. There is a tissue which connects one anther lobe to another anther lobe, that is what you call connector. And here you have, so if this is the one microsporangium, then another one, and this is another one. So here you have the sterile tissue. The layers of sterile tissue will be there in this region. Okay. Now listen. In this region here, this region what you are seeing here, okay. Here several layer thick. This wall layer is several layer thick. Mainly in this region now. So what I am showing here in this region. This is the region where the wall layer is comparatively thin. The wall layer is comparatively thin, and this is the reason where the anther can dehisce on maturity. Anther will split, anther will break in this region. This is the line of dehiscence. This is line of dehiscence. This line of dehiscence is known as stomium. It is known as stomium. Okay. Each microsporangium are separated from each other due to the presence of a few layers of cells which form the sterile part here. On the maturity of the anther, what happens? Okay. So here this layer, the line of dehiscence, this will break. It will dehisce. Okay, and even the sterile tissue which is joining one microsporangium to another microsporangium, that also will degenerate. As a result, basically both these microsporangia can join and appear like a single microsporangium. Here as usual you have connective, epidermis, then endothelium, then middle layer, and these layers will degenerate as I told. So this is what you call the mature pollen grain. So microsporangium will be having large number of pollen grains on the maturity of the anther. So I told this is the line of the hyacinths. So this is the transverse section of the rough diagram. It is mature anther. So how you are seeing four microsporangia clearly in young anther? As I told, the sterile tissue layer which is joining one microsporangium to another microsporangium, that will dissolve, that will break down. As a result, what happens? This both these microsporangium can join together and appear like a single microsporangium, right? And this is how the pollen grains are what you call released later on. So this is the TS of mature anther. So in the microsporangium, there is a process which result in the formation of microspores or pollen grain. Which results in the formation of microspores or pollen grain. This process is known as microsporogenesis, which occur within the microsporangium here. Microsporogenesis. The process of formation of microspores from microspore mother cells through meiosis is known as microsporogenesis. Process of formation of microspores. Microspores are also called as pollen grains. Microspores are also called as pollen grains. So microspores can develop into a mature pollen grain later on. We will study that part. Okay, so the process of formation of microspores from microspore mother cells or pollen mother cells through meiosis is called as microsporogenesis. So microspores or pollen grains are formed mainly through this process. Microsporogenesis occur mainly in microsporangium. Microsporangium, or what we call in pollen sacs or pollen chamber. Pollen sac or pollen chamber. Okay, so there what we have in the center of the microsporangium, here we have the cells. These cells usually you call it a sporogenous tissue. We came to know what is sporogenous tissue. Group of compactly arranged homogeneous cell is called a sporogenous tissue. This sporogenous tissue is surrounded by those four wall layers, right? So each cell of this sporogenous tissue, okay, is capable of forming microspore tetrad, or what we call pollen tetrad. Pollen tetrad. So in the beginning, like this, 4 microspores are held together, okay, to form a tetrad structure. So these pollen tetrad or microspore tetrad will be produced within the microsporangium by the activity of this sporogenous tissue. This sporogenous tissue can transform as microspore mother cell. Simple meaning, microspore mother cell, or you call it as pollen mother cell. So these microspore mother cell or pollen mother cell which are diploid, okay. See, this is a pollen mother cell which is a diploid, and it carry out meiotic division, and this microspore mother cell or pollen mother cell, okay, leads to the formation of the microspore tetrad like this. So when large number of the pollen grains are produced, okay, on the maturity of the anther, as I told, this region is stomium region, okay. So this is the line of dehiscence, the longitudinal line of dehiscence. As a result, what happens? Here pollen grains will be released. These will be bursted out. So this is how, by the dehiscence of the anther in this region, here thin walled layer, you know that, okay, and easily it get disintegrated. Endothecium helps mainly in the dehiscence of the anther. Initially it is hygroscopic in nature, cells are what you call bulged, okay, turgid. So when there is a loss of this turgidity or hygroscopic nature, the cells will undergo compression, they contract, and the middle layer will degenerate, and tapetal layer, which has already provided nourishment, it has played its significant role, that also disintegrate, and here that anther will dehisce and release these pollen grains. These pollen grains will be released out or bursted out from the anther on dehiscence. So this is microsporogenesis, the process of formation of microspore from microspore mother cell through meiosis. So here in these structures you can see microsporogenesis, right? So in the next class I will take up the structure of the pollen grain. So today we learnt stamen, and we learnt structure of the young anther, and we learnt microsporogenesis. So tomorrow we will learn about the structure of the pollen grain, which is considered to be male gametophyte. So tomorrow I will continue.